Today I'm working on a 2017 GMC Sierra 2500 HD, and this has the 6-liter gas motor in it, which is an excellent engine, but they are notorious for, well, for sure one thing anyways, and that's an exhaust tick. And it's not specific to the 6.0 and GM. The Hemis also have this problem, and so do the 5.4 liter Fords. Everybody kind of went to these little exhaust manifold bolts, and it's just kind of problematic. But luckily, there is a relatively quick and easy fix for these things, so that's what we're going to be installing on this one. Right where my finger is where the bolt's broken off. It's the very front one, and usually what I see on these is the very back one on the driver's side or the very front one on the passenger side. Those are the common ones. Well, this one only has one broken. This thing only has 102,000 miles on it, but there is a product that Dorman makes to clamp down over that so you don't have to try and extract that broken off bolt. If you want to extract that bolt, that's just fine, but this is the quick and easy way to do it. So I'm going to show you the product and how to install it. It's kind of hard to capture this without having somebody rev the throttle a little bit, but you can hear that there is definitely a tick. And that's just at idle, so you can imagine how obnoxious it gets when you're cruising down the highway, getting into the throttle a little bit. So here's what we're going to be installing. So we've got 3 bolts and this clamp, and this goes right on the side of the cylinder head. There's 2 holes already in it, not used for anything, and then there's a temp sensor that goes right here. So this is clearanced to go around that. And then this last hole right here, we put the 3rd bolt in there, and we crank that down, and that just goes up tight against the manifold and clamps the manifold down to the cylinder head. So that's what we're going to be installing. It's kind of tricky to get light down in here, but you can see right in the center there's one of the holes, and then the other hole is over this way. I don't know if I'm catching it on here or not, but yeah, they're both right there. Of course, you want to do this with the engine cold so you don't burn yourself on the exhaust manifold. So if we look right in from the front here, we've got this heat shield over the temp sensor. So we're going to pull the heat shield back and unclip that. And then that will be out of the way enough that we can slide the bracket over. To trim this heat shield down a little bit, it interferes. And so what I've found to be the easiest way to do this is just take a cutoff wheel and just take about a 1/2 inch off of that. So here's the piece I cut off. So it's maybe just a little bit more than a 1/2 inch. It's not a real big slice, but took it right off of there. So it actually almost looks like it lines up with the other parts of heat shield now, but that gives us just enough clearance that we're going to be able to sneak that bracket in now, and it's not going to interfere. I'm also going to mention that I pulled the spark plug boot off the spark plug there and off the coil pack, just so that I wasn't going to accidentally cut that while I was clearancing the heat shield. The lighting's not great here, but there you go. It's placed in there and the bolts are started, so now I'm just going to tighten them down by hand. I've put some red thread locker on the bolt that's going to clamp down onto the manifold. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but it seems like a good idea. And then we're just going to thread that in there, and we'll crank that down. We'll tighten it down by hand. I mean with a wrench, but not with a power tool. We're just going to put some tension on it, and we're going to just verify that we take away the tick. We don't need to go crazy with this. We just need to crank it down tight enough that the tick goes away. And then, of course, we're going to reinstall our spark plug wire and boot, and then we can fire it up and see how it's working. Here it is all tightened down. You can see we have just enough clearance on that heat shield. We've got the sensor plugged back in and all the bolts tight, so we'll fire it up and see how it sounds. Here's the finished product, and there might be enough wind from the fan that you can't tell, but I can assure you there is no more exhaust tick. So that really just sounds terrible, and these brackets / clamps, whatever you want to call them, really install easy, or at least this one did. The ones on the back, if I've got one of those that comes through here, I'll shoot a video on that. Those are more of a pain because you got to sneak in there between the firewall and the cylinder head. So that's a little trickier, but this one was easy, and there's no reason to fool around with trying to extract that broken off bolt when you can just clamp one of these things on and just be done with it in just a few minutes.